You're Thomas, a 25-year-old blacksmith in 1347. The sun's gone down, and you think you're about to get some rest. Think again. What you're about to experience will make you never complain about your mattress again. The moment darkness falls, Thomas faces his first enemy, the cold. No central heating, no electric blankets, just raw, bone-chilling cold that creeps through every crack in his wooden hut. He's wearing the same clothes he's been sweating in all day at the forge, his boots still on, because taking them off means freezing feet, and frostbite could end his career or his life. But here's where it gets crazy. Thomas doesn't sleep through the night like you do. His body naturally wakes up around midnight for what's called the watching hour. During this time, he's not scrolling TikTok, he's praying, checking on his sick neighbor, or sharpening his tools by candlelight. This isn't insomnia, it's survival. The sleeping arrangements. Forget privacy. Thomas shares a single room with his wife, 3 kids, his elderly father, and yes, their goat and chickens. The animals aren't pets, they're living heaters. Their body warmth is the difference between waking up or freezing to death. The whole family sleeps pressed together on straw that hasn't been changed in months. Speaking of that straw bed, imagine sleeping on a pile of hay that's crawling with fleas, bedbugs, and God knows what else. Thomas tosses and turns, not from stress about tomorrow's meeting, but from literal blood-sucking parasites feasting on his skin all night long. The itching is so intense that peaceful sleep is impossible. Now here's the terrifying part. In medieval times, night wasn't just dark, it was evil. Thomas genuinely believes demons, witches, and spirits of the dead roam freely after sunset. Before lying down, he places iron nails arranged in a cross shape by his door, sprinkles blessed salt around his bed, and clutches a piece of St. John's wort. This isn't superstition to him, it's life insurance. The psychological terror intensifies. Around 3 a.m., Thomas wakes up paralyzed, unable to move or scream. Modern science calls this sleep paralysis. But Thomas knows the truth. A demon is sitting on his chest, trying to steal his soul. He fights with every ounce of willpower to break free, gasping and sweating when he finally escapes the supernatural grip. Winter brings the ultimate test. Thomas heats stones in his forge, wraps them in rags, and places them at his feet. These medieval heating pads are his only defense against temperatures that could literally kill him in his sleep. One miscalculation, one stone, too hot, and he wakes up with severe burns. Too cold, and he might not wake up at all. The process is terrifying. Thomas carefully selects flat river stones, heating them until they're glowing red. One wrong move and these rocks become weapons that could maim him. He's seen neighbors accidentally burn their flesh off trying to stay warm. The wrapped stones must be positioned perfectly too close to his body, and he risks third-degree burns. Too far away and he'll freeze before dawn. His technique becomes an art form. Thomas learns to gauge the perfect temperature by the sound the stone makes when water drops on it. A soft hiss means it's ready. A violent sizzle means it's too hot and could kill him. He wraps each stone in layers of old cloth, creating a crude but effective heating system that keeps his family alive through the brutal winter months. When war erupts, Thomas is drafted. Now he's sleeping in muddy trenches, wearing full armor, clutching his sword. Enemy soldiers could attack at any moment. Sleep becomes a luxury he can't afford. He learns to rest standing up, eyes half open, ready to fight for his life at the first sound of approaching footsteps. The battlefield is a nightmare. Thomas witnesses his childhood friend Marcus take an arrow to the chest during a night raid. The screams echo through the darkness as medics try desperately to save him. There's no morphine, no anesthesia, just raw, agonizing pain that keeps everyone awake. Thomas knows that tomorrow night it could be him bleeding out in the mud in the trenches. Rats are everywhere. These aren't cute pet store rats, they're disease-carrying monsters the size of cats. They feast on dead bodies during the day and bite sleeping soldiers at night. Thomas wakes up to find bite marks on his arms, knowing that each wound could be his death sentence. The plague spreads faster than wildfire in these conditions. The military sleep schedule is brutal. Thomas and his unit take turns on watch duty, getting maybe 2 hours of rest between shifts. They sleep in full armor because enemy attacks can happen at any moment. The weight of the metal presses into their bodies, leaving permanent marks, and causing muscle cramps that last for days. During one horrific night, Thomas's unit is ambushed by French soldiers. When he watches in horror as his captain gets decapitated just 3 feet away from him, the blood splatters across Thomas's face as he fights for his life in complete darkness. The psychological trauma from that night will haunt his dreams for the rest of his life. The plague arrives in his village. Half the population is dead or dying. Thomas watches friends and family members cough up blood and collapse. Now sleep brings nightmares of death, and every cough in the dark could signal the beginning of his end. He prays desperately that he'll survive until dawn. His neighbor William develops the telltale black boils of the plague. Thomas can hear him screaming in agony through the thin walls. The smell of death and decay fills the air. Thomas knows that, sharing the same water source, breathing the same air, means he's probably next. Every night becomes a gamble with death itself. The plague creates a new horror, the death carts. Every morning, Thomas hears the bell and the grim call. "Bring out your dead." He's forced to drag the bodies of his neighbors to the street, knowing that soon his own family members might be on that cart. The smell of decomposing flesh becomes so common that he stops noticing it. The food situation gets desperate. Thomas's family hasn't eaten a proper meal in weeks. His youngest daughter, only 5 years old, cries herself to sleep from hunger pains. The sound breaks his heart, but there's nothing he can do. Empty stomachs make sleep impossible, and malnutrition makes the cold even more deadly. Thomas resorts to eating things that would make you vomit. Tree bark, leather from old boots, even grass, anything to stop the gnawing hunger. His body starts consuming its own muscle tissue. He becomes skeletal, his ribs visible through his skin. The sleep becomes the only escape from the constant pain of starvation. During the harsh winter of 1348, Thomas makes a horrifying discovery. His elderly father hasn't moved in hours. The cold has claimed another victim. Thomas must dispose of the body before disease spreads to his surviving family members. He digs a shallow grave in the frozen ground with his bare hands, tears freezing on his cheeks. The psychological trauma is overwhelming. Thomas starts experiencing what we'd now recognize as PTSD. He jolts awake at every sound, sweating despite the freezing temperature. His wife tries to comfort him, but she's fighting her own demons. They hold each other in the darkness, two souls clinging to hope in a world gone mad. His wife Margaret starts showing signs of mental breakdown. She talks to their dead baby as if he's still alive, rocking empty blankets and singing lullabies. Thomas knows she's losing her mind, but he's powerless to help. Mental illness in medieval times means certain death, and he watches helplessly as the woman he loves slips away. But here's what's incredible. Thomas doesn't give up. He develops ingenious survival strategies. He creates a crude alarm system using parts and string to alert him to intruders. He trains his body to wake up at specific intervals to check the fire. He memorizes the layout of his hut so he can navigate in complete darkness. Thomas discovers that certain herbs can help with sleep. He experiments with chamomile, lavender, and valerian root, creating crude sleeping potions. The knowledge is passed down through generations of desperate people trying to find peace in chaos. These aren't luxury spa treatments, they're life-saving. Reticence. He becomes an expert at reading natural signs. The behavior of birds tells him when storms are coming. The way smoke moves indicates wind direction and potential dangers. Spiderwebs in corners reveal air currents that could lead to drafts. Thomas develops superhuman awareness that modern people have completely lost. The community becomes his lifeline. Thomas and his neighbors create a night watch system. They take turns, staying awake, protecting each other from bandits, wild animals, and supernatural threats. This isn't just practical, it's psychological survival. Knowing someone is watching over you makes the difference between madness and sanity. When spring arrives, Thomas faces new challenges. The warmer weather brings relief from the cold, but also increases insect activity. Mosquitoes, flies, and other pests make sleep nearly impossible. He creates smoke barriers using damp straw and herbs, filling his hut with choking fumes that keep the bugs away but make breathing difficult. The thaw reveals horrors that were hidden under snow. Decomposing bodies, human waste, and rotting food create a toxic environment. Disease spreads rapidly in these conditions. Thomas must constantly clean and disinfect his living space using primitive methods, boiling water, burning herbs, and scrubbing with sand. The rats become more aggressive as food becomes scarce. Thomas wakes up to find them chewing on his leather boots, desperately searching for anything edible. He sets traps using precious scraps of food as bait, knowing that catching these vermin could mean the difference between life and death for his family. A traveling merchant brings news of a new threat, roving bands of desperate men who attack villages at night. These aren't organized armies but groups of starving, desperate people willing to kill for a scrap of bread. Thomas reinforces his door with iron bars and sharpens his tools into weapons. Every night becomes a potential battle. The bandits strike on a moonless night in July. Thomas hears his door being forced open and grabs his hammer. 3 skeletal men rush in, armed with crude weapons. Thomas fights for his life in complete darkness, using his blacksmith strength to crush skulls and break bones. The battle lasts only minutes, but it feels like hours. The mental toll is devastating. Thomas starts talking to himself, creating imaginary conversations with dead friends and family members. His wife worries he's losing his mind, but she's fighting her own psychological demons. They both know that madness is just another way that medieval life can kill you, but Thomas adapts. He develops an incredible ability to function on minimal sleep. His body learns to enter deep restorative sleep quickly during safe moments. He becomes hyper-aware of his surroundings, able to identify threats by sound, smell, and intuition. These aren't just survival skills, they're superhuman abilities. Born from necessity. The religious aspect becomes crucial. Thomas finds comfort in prayers and rituals, not just for supernatural protection but for psychological stability. The familiar words and actions provide structure in chaos. Faith becomes a weapon against despair, a tool for mental survival that's just as important as physical preparation. Thomas begins teaching survival skills to younger members of his community. He shows them how to read weather patterns, create makeshift weapons, and maximize sleep in dangerous conditions. This knowledge sharing creates bonds that help the community survive as a unit rather than individuals fighting alone. As years pass, Thomas becomes a master of medieval sleep survival. He's learned to read the weather, predict attacks, and maximize rest in impossible conditions. His knowledge saves not just his own life but his entire family's. He becomes a teacher, passing on hard-won wisdom to the next generation of survivors. The most amazing part: Thomas's split sleep pattern actually makes him more productive and creative. During his midnight wakeful periods, he invents new blacksmithing techniques, solves complex problems, and connects with his community in ways that modern people never experience. His two-phase sleep cycle unlocks mental abilities that we've lost in our always-on world. Thomas creates innovations that help his entire village survive. He designs better heating systems, improved weapons, and more efficient food storage methods. His creativity flourishes during those quiet midnight hours when his mind is free to wander and problem-solve without the distractions of daily survival. The supernatural beliefs that once terrified Thomas become tools for psychological survival. He learns to use rituals and superstitions to maintain mental stability and community cohesion. What started as fear becomes a sophisticated system of psychological protection that helps him and his neighbors cope with unimaginable trauma. The story isn't just about surviving medieval nights, it's about the incredible human capacity to adapt, endure, and find hope even in the darkest times. These weren't just people trying to get through the night. They were warriors battling cold, fear, and death itself, emerging victorious every sunrise. Here's what blows my mind. Thomas and millions like him endured this every single night for their entire lives. No complaints, no giving up. They developed an incredible resilience that makes our modern problems seem trivial. They found ways to create warmth, safety, and even moments of peace in the most hostile conditions imaginable. Their sleep patterns were actually more natural than ours. Modern sleep research confirms that the two-phase sleep cycle aligns better with human circadian rhythms. The watching hour provided time for reflection, creativity, and human connection that we've lost in our always-on world. Thomas's legacy lives on in all of us. His DNA carries the memory of those survival skills. His descendants spread across the world, carrying with them the genetic programming for resilience, adaptability, and hope. We are all children of medieval survivors like Thomas. The next time you're lying in your warm, comfortable bed, remember Thomas. Remember that every night was a battle he won. Every sunrise was a victory he earned. His strength lives on in all of us, reminding us that no matter how tough things get, humans have faced worse and prevailed. If Thomas's incredible journey through medieval nights amazed you, hit that subscribe button and join thousands of others, discovering the untold stories of human resilience that shaped our world. These stories aren't just history, they're proof that you have the strength to overcome any challenge life throws at you.